In this video, dive into the movie Addict. We will discuss the storyline, summarize the plot, and explore the cast and character. Additionally, we will cover the movie's production details and box of the performance. Finally, we will provide reviews and share personal reactions. So let's get started. A group of Miami cops discovers a stash of millions in cash, leading to distrust as outsiders learn about a huge seizure, making them question who rely on. Mortimer gave to see Ben Affleck and Matt Damon reunited on screen. This is a genius stroke of casting for writer-director Peronia-laced crime thriller The Arrived at Will's Rives, serving as high-ranking Miami cops. Their unit, which also consists of notable actors Tina Taylor, Simon Yeun, and Katrina Santino, is mentally shaken up by the loss of Captain Jackie in the line of duty. With the film utilizing a cold open, a choice proven to be the right one, with not an ounce of superfluous material here in this slightly edited, placing each officer under questioning to ascertain whether or not there is a possibility this was an inside job. Playing best friends also on screen that is slightly promoted but personally gifted. Typically, these tips are intended to be informed law enforcement team of safe house while holding directly drug money here believed to belong to the Colombian cartel. As such, they bring along a dog who snap out cash rather than the narcotic, which is nifty. If anything, the dog should be species of them, who starts behaving wildly the moment before telling this Q about the job, which increasingly grows erratic to the point where even JD has no clue whether or not he can still be trusted, or if he is looking to pocket the exorbitant amount of cash hidden in this home that he is aware of and tries to hide from them, while knowing what he is leading on. From the minute Jan begins informing his team of the detail, he does not quite seem sure of what he is getting himself into, and greatly underestimate just how much money is his home. It is such a starting amount, crossing over into the million, that considering the recent loss of Jackie, it somewhat sends him into an anxiety-ridden spiral that one of his own could turn against him. He collects everyone's phone. Meanwhile, other characters also begin behaving strangely. Then there are mysteriously cars coming to the home threatening violence, with its entire cul-de-sac seemingly being abandoned, with whoever is around using procedure light to communicate. In a Morse code, lights and shadow frequently come into play for some striking photography. That unique and the unorthodox method of communication is not the only intelligent aspect here, as it is a smart and tense thriller that appear to have been designed in a lab to leverage that night personal and Hollywood friendship Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, testing it and forcing the audiences into an equally awkwardly suspenseful plan of picking a side while watching their character connection unravel and loyalty is tested, with the tattooed across his hand translating to "Are we the good guys?" We are also made aware that Dan's personal life is crumbling. One also wonders if he is uninstinctively, occasionally staring out at it prevent him from failing to corrupt side. This is not to say that Rip is entirely unpredictable in what it is doing, but more than the information that is disparate is done, so is a skillful manner that, even when it comes time for all of it to come into play in a relatively story context, there is blistering and palpable sweetie tension. It would be a spoiler to say what pinpointing the reveal comes down to, but safe to say, a conversation inside an armored vehicle where the good guys and bad guys are made clear is a rousing sequences that is among the best scenes of Joey Carnahan filmmaking, and more exciting than a more traditional action following it up. There are tidbits where it seems Carnahan is attempting to get at something about pay and how little over time is rewarded in these law enforcement areas, and while one wishes that was expanded upon slightly, the mystery drama and the white knuckle thrillers suffice. Dogs you see are complex communication. A low grow means go away. A wagging tail means let's go walkies. And a yellow patiola fits up the side of house. That means there are millions of dollars of dirty cash inside. Ripe for the taking? Of course it does. Have not you seen the ripe? The state of Florida looks exactly and appropriately like a gun pointed at Alabama. The Miami Police Department has corruption issue to rival FIFA executions committee. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck have the chemistry of a married couple during argument, angry, intimate, intense. But wasn't it fun? Rather like if it exercised hate. But did you follow the story or do you have questions? Well, if the latter, we have answer. Damon and Affleck play baseball and officer in Miami. Tactical team. Affleck is a maverick. He uses the C word in America. A punch first think latter kind of guy. Damon is more sensible, thinking before throwing fist. At the end of a long shift, Damon gets a stash house. They entered him. Arrive to find more than $20 million in buckets hidden in a wall. That's when the operation gets sticky amid suspicion that there is a corrupt cop in the unit. And soon, that thin blue line between cops and robber began to wobble. As Damon's character, Lieutenant Dan Drummer, grows in the trailer. From the outside looking in, it seems simple. Seize the cash, count it and turn it in. On the inside, it's difficult. Damon, hard-bitten, jaded leader of the unit, living in the shadow of grief since the death of his son from cancer. Detective Sergeant J.D. Byron, Ben Affleck, six-smoking maverick cop and Jerry Doomer's baseball, was having an affair with Jackie before her murder. Detective Michael Rowe, members of the team, who appears at first to have doubt about Doomer's intention with the cast, or is there just was Doomer's wanted him to think, fast-sucking voice-cracking team member, whose loyalty to the cause never seemed in doubt. Detective Lolo Slazer. The other female team members are Hispanic with two daughters who complain about the tough life of a cop, the shitty pay, and a constant temptation to the skimp of the job. They see Sasha Sell, the young Colombian woman left by the cartel to guard the stash house. A member of the TNT team whose secret investigation sparked the story. She managed to send a crucial tip to Jumer's suspect masked assailant in the opening scene. There were the two masked men who shocked Jackie in the opening scene and the ones planning to steal the money and flee to Mexico. The corrupt cop connection is made early. During after-work beer, before the tip-off comes in, the team discusses a recent spat of stash house raid by band coppers looking to get rich quick. Its Carter house is supposedly getting knocked over by cops and FEDs. Money disappear. Explained Ben Affleck's character before dismissing it as made. His humor an urban fantasy. Jumer suspected something was off from the moment he got a tip about the slash house. He had already considered that one of his team might try to take the money for themselves. That's why he fed his team member a different figure for the stash. Byron was told $300K Numa, $250K Lolo for $75K and Rue $150K. Nobody knew the actual total was $20 million. When Nicola, assuming they had not yet opened the buckets to discover the true amount, said, "No one wants to die over $150 million. Jumers know exactly who had leaked the trip. Rue naturally assumed it was the amount Jumer thought was in the bucket, and that gave him away. That's why Jumer shows despite and a slasher a card with the total sum written on the software to complete the account. He tells them not to say it out loud because that member numbers because the control Later, when senior officers arrive, everyone independently reports a figure they were shown. If the numbers match, the chain of custody hold. If they don't, someone's been scheming. In other words, the system is designed to make corruption collective. You can steal, but only if everyone agrees to steal the same amount and remember it. Partly because he got out of the ordeal alive, sure, but there is another reason. As part of the Informant Code of Miami, on a seizure in the state of Florida can claim up to 20% Dumers explain. This is what she was up to the whole term. A girl can get rich stitching up for South Florida. Dumers tells her. The inference is that she had already signed up with the FBI to inform on the cartels she was guarding money for. That's why Dumers and Byron find her file to be redacted in a system she signed up snitch. At the end, she is seen hugging the FBI agent because they have just told her she's made a cool $4 million for her trouble. This is all part of moving sub-narrative to humanize Matt Damon's character. Early on, we see he has on his left hand and he is right. Later, Daisy asks what it means. Are we the good guys? She asks Mr. Last thing my son said to me. He replies, on the other hand, we are and always will be. Now how? She asks. Cancer, he says. He was 10 years old Jack. Disappeared to be drawn from real life. Eagle-eyed viewer will have noticed to dedication that appear as the movie faded to black. In loving memory of Jack Cassiano. Chris Cassiano, the film's lead consultant, was a member of the real-life Miami drug team that inspired the story. His own son, Jackie, died of cancer in 2021. Drive is an intense new action thriller that reunites long-time friends and collaborators Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. In Netflix's police-fueled story comes from director character Joey Carnahan, who has flexed his musical in the genre before with other notable films, including Nork, Smokey and SS and Gerard Butler's Cop Shop. Beyond Damon's and Affleck, the cast does not skimp on star, as they are joined by the China Taylor, Stammer Yeon, Kyle Can Chandler Scott, Atkins Nestor. The ride features a twisty narrative in which realities are questioned as a simple job done into a potentially deadly nightmare. Pitting its star studies cast of cop against an unknown enemy in a claustrophobic fight, never knowing who can be trusted, including the person standing right next to them, with $20 million on the line. Carnahan's gritty police thriller we have audiences questioning who is corrupt and who are the good cops right up to the very end. Luckily, the Royals separated the good from the bad, but who was behind it all in the end? The opening scene of the Ripe shows audiences the violent slaying of Captain Jackie Will, who is the head of the police TNT. Her team is being questioned in the aftermath of the murder, where viewers are introduced to the character. They will be with throughout the movie. Damon plays Lieutenant Jan Dumer, the leader after Ya's death, and Affleck plays Detective Sergeant J.D. Byron, who is revealed as having a romantic relationship with Wallace. The team is rounded out by Detective Mike Rowe, Detective Numa Depsize, and Detective Lolo Slash. The team want to answer to their captain death, but can't investigate due to the conflict of interest. There are also rumors revealing about a group of cops stealing money from crime scene. Still, it's treated most as a myth within the team and among their fellow law enforcement colleagues, including DEA agent Matthew Martinez, their superior measure, Tom Belicho and Gigi's brother. Abby agents tell Byron with everyone introduced. Jummer tell the team they have a trip, setting things in motion. It's late and the TNT is looking to go home, but Jummer presses them to follow up on a tip from the Crime Stoppers line about possible money Caesar arrived, which is police slang for taking a criminal stuff, or in the instance of the movie, a cash Caesar. As they leave, Jummer insists that each take their own vehicle and that it will be quick. However, he suspiciously tells each team member a different amount to expect from the Caesar. Upon arrival, they meet the person living in the home. They see who lets them to do to divide the fella on their part, telling her they were looking for a drug when money was the real target. The police all quickly sniff out something, and the team finds bucket of cash stashed behind a wall, with an initially small sum now estimated at about $20 million. Consumers assert immediately are much measure to what is happening. Roy is seen with a secret phone he uses to reach help. Presumably the Mr. JD also reaches out to Matty for backup when he began to believe Homer is looking to steal the money. Through a few tense moments, a call is made to the home, letting them know danger is imminent, as people are on their way. However, despite the people shooting at the house being as the drug cartel wanting its money, JD soon runs into a member of the gang revealing it was not him. The new revelation from the cartel comes with the information clearing them of Welles' murder, but point the finger at an unknown cop on her team, with the cartel considering the money lost as the price of doing business. The team is left to fend off heavily armed people who want the cash, with their own member potentially hiding the most significant threat. Diamond's humor appear to be help planning to steal the money with the help of Slash and website, while Raw frantically attempt to get back. When the team began to fight among themselves, just as things arrowed, a fire break out, forcing them to be grab the money and get outside as Matty shows up with an armored vehicle and a presumed right to safety. With Dodge Hummer's JD and Matty all singing around the money in the back of the armored transport. The crime thriller come to head. Our twists are revealed. Jimmer's clues viewer in the way he gave each damn member a different amount of money when they were leaving, proving to be a clever way to figure out who on the team was dirty. Thanks to his deception, the arrival reveals that Roe was not trying to get backup from an individual like the movie presented. Roe was actually reaching out to Matty as a part of the group of dirty law enforcement officers who knock who criminal stashes, which was referenced at the beginning. Roe took shots as well, with the movie showing that Matty delivered the final bullet that killed her, as he was onto them and they needed to keep her quiet. Before the last bullet, Wells sent a message to Humor, giving him to the address where they found all the money. Since Humor could not investigate Wells' murder, he used a ripe as a way to shake up the team, sourcing out of dirty. Even Affleck's JD wasn't aware of Humor, as his suspicions were genuine, with the ending revealing that he was only told when the threat was dire. All the information that come to light sees the vehicle wrapped into violence, with guns going off and JD's FBI brother showing up to help. Two-man action-packed chase sequences. Jumar puts Roy in handcuffs, and JD shoots and kills Matty after his vehicle crashes. The closing moment shows the rest of the team being proven to be trustworthy. Cobb says the money is properly delivered into evidence, and AC is given a cash reward for all trouble. The rape is a full of twists and could even warrant a reverse video revelation. The rape has been a big hit on Netflix, recording the biggest debut since Happy Glamour, to last year with the 41.6 million views. There's potentially a lot of people who found themselves lost among the various twists of the new movie. Ben Affleck and Matt Damon are reunited on screen again in Netflix's intense crime thriller. The rapist sees them play two Miami cops who trust in each other, and their teammate begin to fray when they discover millions in cash in a stash house. But is everything as obvious as it seems? And what does the murder of Captain Jackie Wallace have to do with it all? Jackie got wind of a major stash house in Hialeah, Florida, thanks to her informant Jesse who inherited the house from her grandmother and intended to use the house as bait to draw out the corrupt cops. Mike and Matty killed her before she could do so, but not before she sent a tip on the stash house to Dan. For most of the ride, it looked like Dan intended to steal the cash, totaling more than $20 million for himself and his team. However, it was all actually a play to root out the corrupt detective on their team, which was Mike. When he brings together his team for the raid, he tells each one of them a different amount that he was told was in the stash house. After they arrived here, discovered the money. Our threat comes in that no one and need to die. Our 150k. 150k was the amount that Dan told Mike, confirming to him that Mike was the corrupt detective on their team. They don't know who he was working with the top until Matty shows up, with the intention of transporting the money to a DEA held bank. When they're on their way, G-Day and Danny's suspicion falls on Matty, and it's confirmed when Mike radial the last number on his burner phone, which connects to the Matty. Little does Matty know that JD had already called his murder in the FBI after Danny finally revealed his plan to JD earlier. Matty and Mike attempted to escape, but JD catches John Matty and kills him in revenge for Jackie, who he was in the relationship with. Dan catches up with Mike and gives up, allowing Dan to arrest him. It's revealed that there was never actually any money in the bags on the DEA van, just yellow pages from the stash house. The actual $20 million never left the house and is now safely in the hand of DEA, who confirmed the amount to remove any suspicions from JD, Dan, and the rest of their team. After all the drama, it's a happy ending all round as Desi gets a 20% cut of the stash house money since she was the informant he called him, while JD and Dan watch the sunrise on a beach and remove the memorial hand on their shield to Jackie having managed to get justice for her. Before its end credit, the rap pays tribute to Jack Williams Cassiano, who proved to be tragic inspiration for the movie. Chris Cassiano, who stars in the movie as the anti-detective, A.I. Pardo, lost his son Jack at the age of just 11-year-old today in 2021. Director Joey Carnahan revealed he got his friend's permission to use the loss of his son, with the movie having done, losing his son to cancer. It's tricky, because you go to your friend and say, I don't want this to feel exploitive or cheap, and I don't want to take advantage of the memory of your boy, he explained. Instead, I asked, can we create a vessel with which to put his grief and sadness into the maybe turn it into something where is a least living monument to Jack for his short-term hero note. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck have teamed up for an emotional drama, Good Will Hunting, a 14th century period piece. The Last Yule, a dramedy about Snaker, and many more projects they had produced and acted in together. Now they are taking on a crime thriller. In the Arab, Damon and Affleck play detective who, along with a few other members of the team, find $20 million stashed in a house. And while there are references to a drug cartel, the battle in the rap is between the police officer and whether they can trust one another when their life, careers, and a potentially huge players in on the line. The movie involves some twists, so if you want to make sure you followed along with what was really going on, keep rooting. And if you have not watched the rap yet, well, it's available on Netflix now, and too, there are spoilers ahead. Dan Jummer tells his team they have been sent a Crime Stopper tip about the criminals storing money at a stash house and they have to go and investigate. At the house, they tell the human living there that they are going to be million cash. This led to a bunch of questioning of Daisy, who denies knowing anything and says it was her late grandmother's house. She eventually admits that drug trafficker convinced her to be politically let him down to use the house while she leaves for our editor. While this is going on, The team of detectives are also mourning the loss of the captain, Jackie, who was recently killed on the job by unknown culprit. Jackie was in a relationship with J.T. Byron, then second in command. As investigation into the house and Cash is going down, Danny starts acting very weird. He tells each member of the team a different amount of money was reported to be in the house in the crime stopper tip. He is very eager to get into the house, even it is mean lying to Daisy about the reason they are searching it. Netflix's latest heavy hitter, The Rape, has quickly climbed to the top of the global chart, fueled by the undeniable chemistry of Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. Directed by Joey Carnahan, the film operates like a pressure cooker, trapping a tactical team inside a suburban Miami house with $20 million in cartel cash, while the premise of finding more money than they can handle feels like a classic genre trope. The execution is just clinical look at institution, not the cannibalism of the badge. Joey Carnahan has always specialized in high velocity. Hyper, cinema, anti-rape is no exception. The film avoids the glossy, sterilized look of many streaming originals, opting instead for a gritty, handheld aesthetic that mirrors the fraying nerves of his protagonist. Joy Carnahan has always specialized in the high velocity. Hyper cinema and rape is no exception. The film avoids the glossy, sterilized look of many streaming originals, opting instead for a gritty, handheld aesthetic that mirrored the fraying nerves of his protagonist. Their decades of real-world friendship translate into a screen presence that feels lived in. They don't need long monologue to establish trust. A look or a charismatic job does the work. Once the team enters the house in the Miami Protocol, the requirement to count large sums of cash on side becomes brilliant narrative device to keep everyone trapped. Interestingly, Matt Damon recently noted in an interview that streaming platform often requires simpler dialogue for multitasking viewer. At times, the film falls into this trap, over-explaining plot points that were already clear. Overall, the movie is a meticulous thriller that values tension over mindless explosion. The central question driving the film's final act is the identity of the killer of Captain Jackie Wallace. That it was over just a routine seizure. It was a complex sting operation designed by Jackie before her death. As Lieutenant Jan Jumper and JD eventually realized the $20 million in the attic was bad. Jackie knew there was a his team of corrupt officer led by DEA agent Martinez and TNT's own Mike Rowe who are hatching cartel stashes. In the climax, it's revealed that Rumor was stealing Germany. He was luring the traders. He swapped the real cash for sacks of old phone book, hoarded by the house's owner. Daisy grandmothers while Mikey Rowe and Matty Mix Torche were escaping with the loot. The real $20.6 million was already being secured by the FBI. The film ends on a bittersweet note. Mike is arrested. Matty is killed in a car chase, and the team watches the sunrise. A symbol of the one more day mentality Jackie lived by. If you stayed for the credit, you saw education. In Loving Memory of Jack William Casino, this is not just a name, it's the soul of the film. The IP is loosely based on the life of Chris Casino, a real Miami-Dade officer and friend of Joey Carnahan. In 2016, Casino's team actually discovered $24 million hidden in orange bucket behind a wall in Miami Lake's home. However, the characters of Jan Jumper was rewritten after Casino's real-life son. Jack passed away from cancer at age 11 in 2021. The tattoos on Jummer's hands and his grief over a lost cell are direct tribute to the casino's personal tragedy, elevating the movie from a standard heist flick to a deeply personal meditation on loss. In law enforcement parlance, arrest is a tactical seizure of contraband or currency. Unlike a long-term investigation, a rape is a fast, aggressive strike. The latter highlights the thief-like nature of these operations. When $20 million is on the table, the temptation to reap the money for oneself becomes the ultimate priority task. Release date January 16, 2026, Netflix Global. Director John Carnahan. Lead cast Matt Damon. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are serving, protecting and maybe stealing drug money in the rape. The new Netflix action movie that began streaming today. Written and directed by Joey Carnahan. The rape co-star Damon and Affleck as two Miami cops, grieving the recent murder of their police captain. But when Jay, the latest films from Ben Affleck and Matt Damon's production company, is the rape. A crime thriller written and directed by the A-Team, Joe Carnahan, as well as producing old friends Affleck and Damon both star in the movie as high-ranking police officer in Miami's tactical narcotics team. Dari follows the NTNT as they raid a stash house but far from finding drugs. The team discovers a huge pile of hard cash. However, all is not as it seems. With member of the TNT came to steal the money for themselves and an unclear level of cartel involvement. A battle in the suburbs surrounding the stash house ensues. At the center of the film is the murder of Jackie Will, a TNT captain who gave the tip off on the house in the first place. This sets the main event of the plot in motion, as the entire setup of the stash house is revealed to be bad to discover which police officer had been stealing from house bust. The two main cops in the movie are Lieutenant John Jomers and his closest ally on the force, Detective Sergeant J.B. Byron, who was in a relationship with Jackie until her murder. When the pair discovered that Daisy, who they find in the stash house filled with cartel money, is not just a guard. During ride in the back of an armored vehicle where Dan, JD Detective Mike Rowe, and DEA Agent Matty Nix are apparently transporting the million to a DEA bank. It is revealed that Mike had a secret murder phone which had been used to contact Matty. These two were the pair who wanted to steal the cash. Dan had worked his card because he had secretly given a different total value of the money to each member of the team, and the number he had told Mike was the same one that was later mentioned by the mysterious guard who turned out to be the Matty. With his information, it is then confirmed that Matty, with Mike on his side, was also the agent who killed Jackie. With pretty much her last act, she had sent him the tip about the money in the house before she was killed, with Mike and Matty murdering her to keep her quiet so they could continue with their plan of carrying out the heist. The final twist is that none of the $20 million was ever on board the DEA van. All the money had remained at the house. Anytime Matt Damon and Ben Affleck get together to make a movie, it's an event. Their last outing was 2023's Affleck directed Air, about the guys at Nike who created the Air Jordan. Now they are back in a totally different register, staring in the rape. The latest meathead action thriller from director Joey Carnahan. Those whose eyebrows immediately perk up at that combination of words will be happy to know the film deliver in exactly the ways they are hoped, and in some surprising ways too. In the rape, Damon and Affleck play a pair of wise cops in Miami who lead a team on regular raid of local stash houses. After losing their lieutenant in a mysterious assassination, Diamonds and Humor step into the job amid an environment of suspicion about police corruption and aforementioned murder. Dan gets a tip for money, but Sancheki's Kyo Johnny address in question, where they discover a lot more money stashed away they expected already doing the bust in secret. Dan takes his what infuses in doubt an entertaining thriller of distrust, sometimes feeling almost like Johan Carpenter, the thing in which Bond fell among the group as they began to question each other. Here we return scene establishing Dan's close relationship with Affleck's detective sergeant. J.D. Byron turned out to have been an effective setup for the dynamic to come. The pair may be best friends, but didn't get the job. On top of that, J.D. had been in a relationship with Jackie, their murdered lieutenant. J.D. too is the one less willing to appear authority, leading to a particular air of suspension hanging over him in the department. It's our great stuff to play off the one then started cracking strangely during the bust. To go any further would be to spoil the movie many fun, twist and turn. What's clever about the film, to me, is the way it appears to be aesthetically in conversation with the prettiness of this genre. These are cops on red, wearing blue-throat vests, decked out with guns, using SWAT tactics, Michael Bay stuff. In other words, so characters talk to each other like Capital M, man with chest puffed out, peeking at all time. It has exactly the kind of playable, bro vibe someone wanted from a movie that would ordinarily star Gardner Butler. Best possible because even thought it does not feature Scott Adkin. Everything else about is elevated, including the cast. There is Damon and Affleck, of course, but also Stephen Yeun, Sasha Kelly and Kyle Chandler. The interplay of good writing, smart directing, and great actor to carry out of is also an effective distraction from the fact that this action thriller is pretty light on action. In general, The Ripe is a despicably low-budget affair, with much of the action taking place inside one house. That could have gotten tiresome, but being able to trust the movie on the shoulders of actors sporting goofy dialogue at each other is a privilege of working at this higher level. Those scenes work. They work because there's logical within the flow of the film at a structural level. They work because they do actually build and alter perception of character throughout the film. And they work because the actors are good and can pull it off. Of course, having Damon and Affleck together is a whole other layer of special sauce. They are each great movie star in their own right, but together they are a story. The lifelong friendship. From the Goodwill Hunting Oscar to their massive success, it's all packed into the pairing, and any scene between the two of them is always immediately electric. That always been true, and it's true in the rape, which you could probably watch on mute and still perfectly comprehended when Chaman and Affleck are acting opposite each other. Despite seeming kinda silly as a pair of marine like Miami cops, they sell the characters and their dynamic. At no point is the depth of the friendship in question, because you see it in their body language. When trust seems to be broken, it has weird, because the story of that friendship exists in reality. Even the writing and directing can't touch. What it all adds up to was a perfect piece of conch block entertainment, low enough on the brain power meter, but without insulting the audience's intelligence. Know what kind of movie the people who find it and hit play on Netflix are looking for. Moment to moment, it's always entertaining, with just enough suspense and just enough humor. Throw in some great actor, Matt and Ben, and some solid directing, and you have got a movie going. I can hardly think of higher praise for a film like The Rape of that is. As soon as it ended, I turned to my friend and said, I hope to make more of this. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck have found the perfect vehicle for a screen treatment. We directed writer for a screen teaming with director Joey Carnahan. That is a fresh and smart entry into the overworked crop drama genre. Carnahan certainly knows his way around police action thriller set in Florida, but this one feels clever enough to breathe new life into the well-worn scenario we have seen play out in countless movies and TV shows. This one oddly enough feels like Germany has long been a B-movie buffet for those exhausted by percentage award bid. Among when Gerard Butler and Jason Statham are suddenly commanding wide release and often number one minute hit. But as the former's apocalyptic sequel, Greenland, Migration lingers in the top 5 and the latest action rom Shelter prepare to premiere. We find two more appointment star, Oscar winner Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, resigned to the small screen instead. In a non-Netflix's world, a film like The Rape flashy, action-heavy led by two household names should be available this weekend on the biggest high-format screen across the country. But then in that same world, at this particular time, it is doubtful that a film like this would even get made. Granted a budget that is reportedly close to $100 million, highly unusual for R-rated non-IP. The streamer was, in fact, so keen in getting made that it has briefly agreed to change its pay structure, allowing Affleck and Damon to bring across a profit-sharing artist equality rule, by which each member of the cast and crew gets a bonus if the film performs well. So, as with many films at this wide moment, it's a take what you can get situation, and while it would have been preferable to see a film like this, which looks and feels like it was made in 2002 on the big screen, the landscape was dictated that small will have to do. It's made by Joey Carnahan, a writer-director who broke out in that same year with crime thriller Narc, a film that was saved from direct-to-video ignominy by Tom Cruise, who bought it as access producer. Since then, Carnahan has continued to attract other Hollywood action junkies such as Liam Neeson, Gerard Butler's Mel Gibson, and Affleck, whom he first worked with on 2006 rather annoying carpet smoking essays. I would argue that Carnahan has only made one true great film in The Grey, a grim, grueling and surprisingly poignant survival thriller about men at the end of the world facing the end of their lives. But he has proven himself to be mostly solid genre hand. The system has not found a place for him in the last 5 years. Hands up if you have seen Carrie, Washington, a project developed with TV writer Michael M.C. Grell, is a comfortable fit. The kind of film he would have been making back in his idea. As the Netflix lost every section vehicle, 2019's Triple Frontier, it's a straightforward throwback to the theatrical movie of yesterday. And as with the film, it has concerned a fight over a considerable bounty. A film called A Rap, led by Kev Smarkas, accused flashback to 2013, Jabrizian, paranormal police flop, but it afraid mean something thankfully rather different and more of the real, physical world, inspired by alleged true event. It referred to be smashed amount. Here tripled off to be group of Miami officer, led by James Dan and Affleck City. They descend upon a seemingly normal suburban abuse and led by an acceptable means of knifing dog. Fund more than $20 million hidden in this active. The team, which also include Oscar triple Diana Taylor and the Oscar nominees Tavon and Catalina Sancho, Morris safely transport, who can be trusted with a ripe like this. Give plenty of talk about it checking or robbing the rip, which no actor is quite able to be normalized. and as talented as Damon and Affleck might be. Somehow their more bravado, preferred cast traits also ring a little false at this stage of Adder's career, but it's Adder's take on role that would usually be sleepwalked by the butlers and Saturn. Speaking of truffle oil on a greasy roadside burger, there is their obvious long-term chemistry, but there are also serious dramatic actors who are able to bring some humanity to note, underwritten magic, tragic backstories. There is a little else for the other actor to rely on also. As a young woman living in the house, Carnahan working with a budget he hasn't been this close for a year, is a brash, cocksure, and entirely unacceptable director. Rajon Simpson, Becky Salma, and while it might not look quite as expensive as it actually is, one imaginative demon, Affleck periods were considerable. The film has a forceful swagger to it. It's thought to be the critical about a rape, a modest cop thriller that starred Belong Budget's Matt Damon and Ben Affleck in their first movie together since they launched their own production. Artist equity with the release of Air nearly 3 years ago. After all, it's exactly the type of film that Damon and Affleck felt there was still market for mid-budget, high-floor, low-ceiling drama that are not based on any existing IP or part of an expanding cinematic universe. You have heard of four-quadrant movie, while Therapy is a one-quadrant movie. This is a film designed exclusively for folks who like watching again male movie star talked of, shoot guns, and solve crimes. It's movie that target laser precision film bros who purchase with it departed and return in multiple format. In Jarib Jaman and Affleck play two Miami cops, Jan Jomer and Ted Sete, who work on a strike force labeled TNT Tactical Narcotics Team that raise drug stage sources. When a member of the team frantically takes them a loud trip right before getting gunned down by a masked assailant, the scare finds themselves riding a suspected drug den that has $20 million in cash hidden away in barrels behind a false wall in the attic. The only person in the house, a young woman named Daisy, claims to know nothing about it. The 5% strike force, which is addition to Drummond and Affleck, is filled out by the Simon Eon, Catalina Santino, and Chana Taylor. He is immediately overcome by fear and paranoia. As I began wondering both who might be coming for the money and which of the team member might decide to seize the loot for themselves. Jumar's not wanting to phone in the Fancho HQ does not exactly inspire confidence among the top, and shady local cops are patrolling the street out front. And then a threatening phone call comes in. You have got 30 minutes to get the fuck out of that house. From that point, the arrive lives on the several different action movie tropes and scenario. It's a legal movie, maybe it's a heist movie, has the plot dutifully untangle itself via a series of twists and turn that you often feel mandated rather than inspired. Some lip services appear to character depth, but really, both Damon and Affleck are just playing stock. Tough guy, characters that likely did not require much prep aside from growing a grizzled beard. That's sad. There is a reason these guys are still movie stars nearly 3 decades after Good Will Hunting, and there is immediately some fun to be had in watching them step into roles that feel more grounded than the outside. Big screen character they have often been tasked to play. The supporting cast is also worth paying attention to, as is far more interesting than what we typically get from a general Netflix release. Eon is always reliable, and this is Taylor's first film since starring and winning a Golden Globe for one battle after another, which boosted her career last fall. Cal Candler is also around as a DH and keeping tabs on the situation. And while Carnahan did not have to cast COD action star Scott Adkins, What it does have is gunfire, as the film's biggest action set pieces are all body hooks shot out. That Kanahan shoots like a pro. The story itself is also standard issue, offering out a prescribed number of double crosses, fake out, and plot explaining flashback until everyone's true motive is revealed and a surprise villain or villain can be held accountable. The repeat's closest cousin might honestly be the FX cop show, The Shield, which was also about a highly specialized strike team that was not exactly on the level and often found themselves stuck in situations spiraling out of control. The Shield was not afraid to get dragged off, while Jerry feels like it needed to play it safe enough to accommodate its movie star lead. Kanahan, who wrote the script and shares the story credit, musters a feeling of authenticity. I am not a Miami cop, so it could be Fox's authenticity as far as I know. But the characters in the Reef to speak a certain way and carry themselves in a manner that feels true to the Dingley. The stories are in services of likelihood not sport. A 2+hour film, but thankfully, the Reef got two credits right at the hour and 45 minutes mark. So a sense of cautious exceptional expectations gains this groovy job thriller, which was inspired by a true event, but feels very much like a project of the movies. Frankly, we read our first act is exciting who care. When Miami cop Jackie Wills given John in the cold blood, it's then showways to harsh unit. That TNT tactical narcotics team, new boss and giving fodder Lieutenant Jan Dumer once emerges Saul fast. His right-hand main detective sergeant, J.D. Barron Affleck was Riv's lover and keep her gun as the ultimate tribute. The rest of the team played by Simon Yeon, Tiana Diller, and Katrina Stantino. Close rank as the FBI headed by Scott Adkins as Byron's younger brother. Start its inauguration, this may sound like an almighty of informed dumb, but it's so well written and performed it plays out like very high-stake drama. Following an enormous tip of the team head to a drug cartel safe house, where they find a young woman they see Sasha with $20 million stashed in the attic. The questions the film pivot on is, what should they do next? The cartel is coming to kill everyone. They don't trust their superior with the cash and assume a note. It would be so much easier if the invoice stole his money. For those unaware of Miami PD vernacular, the rape is slang for when cops do exactly that. But with the sales of the set for all exerting assault on Princeton 13 update, Carnahan dropped the ball, just as the tension should be ramping up. It began to display with the characters wandering off alone, making stupid decisions, and concealing so many secrets it scares us back. Their motivations, let alone stay emotionally involved. The thing about lying, says humor. It becomes real hard to keep this damn land straight. The film has the same problem. It's great to see German and Affleck going it at after all these years, with the former turn and brooding, and the latter showing yet again that he excels is bringing share to secondary low role. Thus poaching the cast is first there, particularly Colin what would have been a thankless part. The title of Carnahan's debut, Blood, Cats, the Bullet, and Octane, seem to have informed the rest of his career, but his films are actually more interesting when they focus on moral dilemmas, as in the underrated Narc, than arguing hell for later. In the case on the rape, this can be boiled down to tattooed humor has on his hand. All in all, it's quite right. Yet the more things it tries to do, the less well it does them. As an idolized Friday night action flick, it ticks all the right boxes. But it also feels like less than the sum of its admittedly impressive part. Oscar-winning screenwriter Damon and Affleck's actress producer. The boys are back in town in the Rape Joy Carnahan game. Gloomy Netflix's crime thriller that reunite everyone's favorite Hollywood. Jaman and Affleck break into the beach together and started with the good will hunting before going off in mostly separate direction. They recently reunited for Ridley Scott, excellent, underrated the loves you. But the film kept their characters apart for the majority of the runtime. The repeats contrast is being sold as the big Damon Affleck reunion we have been waiting for. What could be better than watching those two guys being idiots? Unfortunately, while there's some fun here, and their Affleck is particularly amusing playing a chain-smoking world-class a whole. The rap has an unfortunate been there, done that quality to it. We have seen this type of cop thriller before and done better. Maybe if Carnahan, who also penned the script, added a bit more levity to the proceedings, the rape would function better. Instead, everyone is so miserable, so sure, so bitter that it became a bad core to watch. That's not to say that it needed to be a wacky comedy. After more than a few bleak movies to his name, his breakout. Narc is unrelenting in his misery, and I am a big fan of his The Grey, a hunting meditation on that was unfortunately marketed Liam action movie. But while Carnahan found the right balance to strike with those films, he does not seem able to nail down the rape. Set in surprisingly dark and rainy Miami, the rape introduces us to the TNT unit of the police force. A group of no-sense, rough and tumble shooter who take down big score and boast even bigger clearness number. The unit finds themselves in a bite of crisis. Their leader, Jackie Valles, is murdered in the opening scene of the film. This opened the door for the morose Lieutenant Jan Dumer to become the new boss. Something that seemed to sit perfectly fine with his sportive team consisting of Detective Sergeant, Detective Micro, Detective Norma, Website, one battle after another breakout Tiana Taylor, and Detective Lolo Slasher. The cast assembled here is unquestionably talented, but they all appear adrift in the material. The building blocks are here for Carnahan to create a fun team dynamic, but we learn almost nothing about the bulk of these characters save for Affleck's JD, who is long-term buddy of John. Damon's main character does not fall much better. We are told he is grieving the death of his son and drowning in medical debt, but there's about as much of inform as the film is willing to dish out. To be fair, Carnahan is playing things very close to the chest because he's got more than a few twists and turn up his sleeve. But you are bound to see them coming. As the sun began to set, the team is ready to clock out for the day. Until Dan tells them about a tip involving a stash house, they roll out and end up in an eerily quiet cul-de-sac, knocking on the door of a house inhabited by Daisy, who is quite good here playing a character card in the middle of the mayhem. The young woman explained the house once belonged to her now dead grandmother, and she is tied up in a probate court trying to make the place her own. The cops act friendly and courteous to Daisy. Eventually, an alarming amount of money is discovered stashed away in the attic. Daisy claims she has no knowledge of it, but she also tells the cops that they should take away what they want and leave an anonymous phone call to the house also offers a warning. If the cops don't get out of there soon, they are going to die. The stage is set up for plenty of morality grey drama. Will this scene turn dirty and pocket gas? Or is something else going on here? Dan began acting strange, and JD notices this pretty quickly, leading the two friends to be at each other's throat. From here, I assumed Carnahan was going to take at a sort on Prince 13 style approach. with our cops under siege from criminals trying to bust into their location. But while the rape stays pretty much rooted to that, most of the film's time is devoted to watching the character stand around with sore look on their faces and making abundant use of the F word. There are bursts of action from time to time, but I fail to thrill, not helping matter is the look of the film. The rap does give us a handful of scenes where German and Affleck's character blow out, but these are brief flashes of light in a sea of darkness. I am all of dark and gritty crime drama, but the rap never feels like much of a movie, more like a pilot for a new, particularly violent law and order spin-off. Many films genres have a variety of storytelling tools available to keep the pressure not only on their characters but also on their audiences. One of the trickiest tools to use in the plot twists because it relies on the body stock of the reveal and the step taken to set it up. A twist that feels like it came out of nowhere can work, but examining a good story will show how the creature fed us the right information to get us cozy enough to be shocked. And then sometimes that twist does not take the landing. Sometimes it fumbles execution so badly that it ruins the entire movie. It's hard to come back from that. Ian building a $1 billion empire out of his horrific no-mouth reveal as Deadpool in X-Men Origin. Wolverine is a flawed that speaks to the character, determination to rebuild his character. But usually, the movie's question becomes a cautionary tale. These are 10 of the worst plot twists in the modern movie's history. We reveal so stinky that you want to love the rest of the movie. But don't ever feel judged if you still love and one of these bad surprises. Movies are for everyone, and we all have our secret garbage favorite. Spoiler ahoy. Some fans argue that the first half of the Hancock, which sees Will Smith as a statular and menacing action hero, is still pretty good. We are not here to say they are wrong, but a twist into the second half is so rotten that it's hard to bring his thing to movie night. Hancock's homeless superhuman would fit in the way the boys, but unfortunately, he's just a lone macaque, or he's gay, after he accidentally befriends a PR guy and gets to meet his family. The movie takes a turn for the garbage disposal. The PR guy wife, Mary, is actually another superpowered immortal. As we sit numb from our lack of shock and fueled by her exposition, as some Highlander dreamed backstory. We soon take the second blow. Mary is actually Hancock's cellmate. She left him years ago when he first became an amnesiac. This leaves us with an unsolvable paradox. On the one hand, good for Mary, as Hancock's clearly a jerk. On the other, the aesthetics of partners leaving a relationship, the second the other gets sick or depressing. Put together, Hancock is a top-class movie, balanced on a failure of a twist that detract from an already edgy exploration of a shoddy superhero. Thanks goodness actor Peter Berg still thinks a Hancock sequel is a long way off. M. Night Giff is building Weep's pretty rich atmosphere, ripe for gothic style twist and John. He has created some genuine thriller classic like The Sixth Sense. But by the time the village came out, there were questions on whether he could consistently keep his take up. The answer is, for the most part, yeah, not really. The village has a lot going for it, with an excellent cast that includes Weaver, Jacqueline Phoenix, and William Hurt. Bryce Dallas Howard Sheen in early performances that cast her as a Navy village sent on a frightening mission for the medical supplies needed to save a life. Yet the twist that the movie hangs on, that this village is an off regret, post 9 by 11. The old days were better and safer. Dystopia as utopia is wonky enough to turn the flick into a granted way to start a fight at your monthly film club. It's a movie that can still be enjoyed for its cinematography and historical costuming, difficult to defend, but it goes with its plot. Make a movie with at least a half dozen plot twists boiled on the top of each other. Virgin and Ocean, 11 plot with displaced magician. Throw in a weak conspiracy theory about ancient Egypt just to annoy the spirit of Umberto Eco, who did all of this better in the Petroleum and still had time to drag Dan drone before he died. Then give the lovable Mark Ruffalo the worst geek of the career. Congratulations, you made a terrible movie that still somehow got a sequel. No wonder this country is in trouble. One key is making a character's big twists, and is to ensure that their behavior is consistent with their character. As an FBI agent named Dylan Road, who's chasing these irregular street magician for big reasons of his own, is not consistent. There are scenes of him alone where his behavior does not match who he is in at the end of the movie. He is not performing for anyone, which is a cheating no, and offer no foreshadowing for his actual motive. So for him to abruptly reveal himself as the actual mastermind behind everything is a bad story. We were never given a chance to pick through the clue. The real illusion of his movie is acting like it was giving its mystery to play with Boo. Modern James Bond actor Daniel Craig will happily be the first to tell you that the franchise is not high art. It may even be a stretch to suggest it's of some formal higher, not prank than a comic book series, especially when one of repeated Bond stories is in fact a comic book series. That's sad. It's no fun to see a twist on the level of a really bad 90s superhero comic. In fact, the Craig era Bond movie was that it involved the award-winning Ingorgious Bastard star Christoph was doing his best with the Boris coronation of Ernest before to death. Spectre not only rigged on some pretty solid modern Bond movie into chess pieces for the newly revealed terrorist organization Spectre, but it shoehorned before back into continue after a right issue had forced his previous movie to create fresh plot and a motivation without him. All the original plan had Rolf Lehner revealing himself as the main villain of Spectre. Things turned out differently on screen. Blofeld dropped his version of somehow, returned and revealed that he raised alongside an orphan and adopted James as a brother. Is actually Spectre informers later. It does not land with the gravitas of Darth Vader's long ago pronouncement of the patriotism. It's more like in Saturn post Thanksgiving report. There is a plenty to argue about regarding M. Night superhero trilogy. Unbreakable remains the standout, sometimes too dark and ponderous, but enriched with a genuine love for the art of coming and a good twist. Sublet right advertised on James MCO with phenomenal performances, but Glass which attempt to use Jackson's supervillain as its narrative crux. A late game reveal that there is a being secret superhuman. Glass attempt to take them on its more nice anti-hero stuff, but is also trying to bring the tactic that we can sign into play as the movie reaches its climax. Are these superheroes really all that? Working class hero David Dunn, Bruce Willis, leaves us with his unwanted questions as one of America overpaid and overarmed militant cops causes him to drown in puddle, as water is his only weakness. But we are not violence virtue superhero, or are we? By the end of the class, nobody knows what it all means anymore. We won't lie. We would still line up for another movie in this universe. Taking about a Harry Potter property these days is an unwanted minefield. From J.K. Rowling's bullying of trans people, an issue building down the upcoming Max series report, to the myriad issue surrounding stars Yoni Depp and Ezra Miller. It's just one more fortune owner to crack that fantastic beast. Sub-franchises went sideways in his second outing. News Scavenger had a nice thing going in the first film, where his job was to find, well, fantastic beasts. Before team muggers figure out there's a vastly more interesting work out here. Thanks a lot, Newt. The franchise then showed Dumbledore and a pre-watch mode villain. Green went into the mix. The crimes of the Grand World brings Grand World, whose slightly less serious twist overburdened the previous film, into the foreground while apparently joining the Dumbledore into the answer to the Skywalker clan. Ezra Miller, previously introduced as a troublesome with a fondness for dangerous bug, goes through some sort of badly narrated transformation from some dude to member of the Magic Supermassive clan, somehow being Albus. The explanation is too nautical, summarized and offered in shades of flashback that insult the legacy of Fresh Mom. But we can tell you it gets even worse in the sequel. The Secret of Dumbledore, if you care, watch we can't. There are not a lot of nice things to say about where Kevin Spacey is with his career and his reputation. There it is. But it does make easier to talk about a bad movie. It's done. Pay It Forward is one of those snarmy human interest movie that came off better when done in 52 minutes for an after-school special back in the 80s. Its premise is simple. We can to each other. This is fine. But we have to have a special young man and his special teacher and he said. Special mother teach it us via sad scene, where we are just not convinced of his innate goodness of the human spirit. The ending is subtle. Trevor Joel, and the architect of this proper New Testament parable about sharing, gets abruptly snagged by a bully and dies. The tone wails about the unfairness of it all and promises to scary on his idea. Yes, it's that bad. It's even more manipulative and that is sound. It's a movie equivalent of the real life robot that was beaten into scrap is it's an accidental example of black comedy. And it hits even worse its modern time. We know how just now many of us would not vote for a Pear's Prize rope of his Jesus himself was doing. If you are still wearing your orange giant hat, said John. Firefly fans is not that Sand City. No, this one stars Matthew as a shaggy dog of a man. A real sort of the art fisherman hunting a trophy fish. His name is Dale. We are not making that up. He is eventually roped into drama as his ex-wife re-enters the picture to beg him to save her and their son, Patrick, from the abusive new man in their lives. None of that matter because this is all somehow so terrible drawn rip-off where Dale Sneaker is just an NPC in cyberspace designed by Patrick to replace his father, a real man who died in wartime. This is ridiculous to write. Dale can't do anything in his real fishing state of existence to change reality, but apparently has enough sentence to figure out he is an NPC and that he should go kill this dude anywhere, because his kid said so. Meanwhile, in real life, Patrick killed his stepfather and wife his own happy ending with another home new computer game. You just know this kid would be into the crypto now and had a phase where you could invest in his in he would be DM the hog girl who could go on. Batfish is mid-range horror movies are one of those annoying things that exists and you have to just deal with it. Like mosquito in summer, or crunchy rice crystal forming in your ban and cherries. It's less than great when those bad twists take real world issue down with them in ugly ways. Often manage to fumble a lot of bag that needs some reasonable handling. Like the way it's demonizing adopted kids and making her a rare disease into a joke. It's a bad twilight zone. One dad wrote Sherling would not have cut because Talke China already did most of his better without punching down on anywhere. Esther is quickly adopted because this nice white family wasn't happy enough with two kids and would not get trophy for the genuinely tragic experiences of stillbirth. Nobody does their due diligence until after Easter, has nearly killed everyone twice and creepily tried to seduce dad at least once. At which point, some doctor overseas explained that the kid is actually a serial killer in her 30s. As her actually Lena has Hollywood malarial typhoid disorder somehow keeps this lady child big and ready for life. That's not how any of this works, and anyone with a real thyroid disorder should be allowed to throw unsalted popcorn at this movie at every opportunity. It's well known by now that Robert Pattinson puts enough effort into his craft to make any performances of his watchable, even if that can't redeem the movie in questions. So when we say Remember Me, it's a cheap shot of a movie, a smarmy sober with a manipulative of America's collective memory that you want to be hold ready, personally responsible for this thing. It's no reflection on Pattinson, while blame if you have somehow avoided knowledge of Remember Me. It's a very basic teenager romance drama with a lot of cumulative baggage, all of which goes up in smoke when a warm shot reveals that trailer that worked in the World Trade Center. And day he finally visits Bob's high-rise office is on indeed on September 11, 2001. The grimiest unlikelihood of his movies that trailers remain are recovered, identified and built in the family plot. At least 40% of 9/11 victims remain unidentified, while scientists continue to this day to reunite that with their family. Not only is this movie another cheap web, but it's also a little tricky. The Ripe is a new film preparing on Netflix on January 16, written and directed by the Carnahan. The film stars Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Stephen Yeun, and Sasha Kelly. The cast alone sells the film. Lately, I have heard a lot of people claim that the era of the A-list actor creating a movie on this trend of the face. I don't buy that here. Anyone who sees this cast will be inclined so much. Between that in lineup and the lack of major competition this weekend, it's almost guaranteed to be a hit. That said, it does not mean the movie is itself any good. Between the January release and the early title itself, I did not have high expectations for the film. Still, I was genuinely looking forward to it because of how much I liked the cast. Damon and Affleck reuniting felt promising, as if they were truly invested in something substantial. The supporting cast only heightened that excitement, with standouts like Stephen Yeun and Tiana Taylor. When you hear about a lineup like this coming together, it's hard not to be intrigued. My one lingering concern was actor Joey Carnahan, whose track record has not exactly inspired confidence after watching the film. It's clear the potential was there, but it's ultimately weighted down by messy direction, absurd storytelling, and an unappealing color palette and visual style. The first half of the film is actually not that bad. It throws you into the story during its interesting point that allows you to quickly understand the characters and the story. It was not great. The dialogue was definitely dated and messy, but I could not help but see more comparison to Carnahan's earliest film. Smokiness is a film I personally loved. Once the story centers around his house, I really enjoyed its build-up. Unfortunately, when shows ensures in when the film became very messy, developed from a story by Joey Carnahan and Michael M.C. Grail. The screenplay itself was written entirely by Carnahan. I am not sure what happened along the way, but at one point Carnahan was reportedly to remake the Raid, and you can see traces of their influences here almost as if this film became a substitute for that project. The core issue is that Carnahan likely should have served as either writer or director, but not both. Well, some of the plot twists do land. The longer the film goes on, the more impulsive they become. It feels like the project needed another creative voice to rein the story in. because he has a lot of util unrealized potential that could have made his a much stronger film. I can understand why a cast like this was signed out, with Damon and Affleck attached as producer. It's easy to be imagined much of the supporting cast committing without even seeing the full script. The worst case outcome is that the film at least helps the supporting actor build relationship that may allow them to flourish later in their career. Looking at Carnahan's filmography, his work does not exactly have a reputation for elevating performances. Even his earlier projects were notably stronger. The first half of the film is arguably its best, largely because it subverts expectation. Once the story began to unravel. In the second half, however, it became clear the film believes it's far smarter than it actually is, resulting in performances that feel exaggerated and over the top. The film adopted a visual style that's initially interesting, but steadily by the final, the washed out. Light blue color palette is especially appealing, resembling the kind of look that would be mocked in style like the studio. The camera work is frequently shaky and keep the action at a distance, revealing any real sense of immersion. By the end, the visual effects are outright poor, relying heavily on CGI instead of practical location, with results that barely look finished. Hopefully, Damon's upcoming work on the Odyssey will serve as a reminder of how effective strong visual storytelling can actually be. Most of the action is held back for the second and third act. When it finally arrives, I expected something closer to the chaotic energy of Smoky and Success. Instead, it's underwhelming and short-lived. By the time the film reaches its third act, it becomes clear it's relying on its twists to compensate for the lackluster action. Even with all the gunfire, the film offered nothing new in terms of set pieces or spectacle. Is territory we have seen covered countless times before. Overall, Tribe is ultimately disappointing because of how much potential it's got. It leans far too heavily on its twists, to the point that they undermine the film's believability. The visual presentation is off-putting, from the color palette to the overline, on CGI in place of practical location, and the action offer little of note. If you are a fan of the cast, it may still be worth a watch. At best, Oasis may is right for what it bid is likely to be quickly forgotten. On the production of side of things, Netflix is kicking off the new year rather modestly with the release of Trip. A cops and a robber buddy robbers are cops drama inspired by a true event. The film directed by an undervalued Joey Carnahan feature and promote the pairing of Matt Damon and Ben Affleck as young their cops beating up a task force colloquially called TNT. If the acronym seems a little on the nose, you might have a good enough sniffer to join this unit, as it won't be the only unknown you find, and it won't be the only term the boss says. It's a bit bigger than the rest of the target. There is bringing the which colleges Rob mysterious and conflict that compromises any detective genre. You have your close knit unit of well-dressed cop populated with some disposable actor, some of whom are up to task of actually being in movie. You have Greaser's veteran cop in Damon's Dan Dummer, who might not be on the straight and narrow D&D, who also happen to have a tragic backstory. You have your intricacy, rivalries, and disunity among department. You have all the ingredients of perfectly suitable cop drama that actually is a bit more digestible than other. You can largely thank Joy Carnahan for the film series of viewing. The man has been around for decades, had a bit of a spike in notability somewhere in there with the likes of Narc, Smoking, Isis, The Grey, and sort of the air team, and then promptly went back under the radar. The man has style. What the style is multiple fan film he make. Grim and dark is there for Nork and Degree. Bombastic and fun is there for Smoky and Asses or Dirty Air. Here the review gets a smattering of tone and style, and it mostly work. Much of the film surprisingly play like a horror movie. Dread is ever on the doorstep of a trash house. The TNT crew has decided to raid up a mysterious ship. It's only rise when the raid reveals a sum of money that realizing changes instant and understanding of a situation. You even have a play on the inaccessibility of one will the killer is taking your protagonist. Carnahan navigates a lot of movies apart and some disparate element. There is an office space kind of opening to the movie with an FEA version of the two Bobs conducting the interview of the TNT unit. Here we immediately get to see Affleck's character simmer, and while in contrast with the demon's more reserved one, you go to your get up and bad cop. Only they are all bad cop, but which is the lead better of the bad cop. It's a simple enjoyment, seeing the two veterans both in the context of the movie and their real life career circling one another. And the movie thankfully does not snap on that. Without the great tension and build up reaching its zenith, we move into our final act, which plays more like an Ocean's 11 Y version of a Miami Vice episode. Is disappointed to be sure. Like Netflix's game in a late OD algorithm for Carnahan. To be fair, says are pretty well prompted to get us here, and Carnahan like this twists and turn and revelation. Even something like Narc, which plays the genre straight and gritty, still utilizes that and revealed to be reconsider the viewer perception. Here even top we can enjoy or find satisfaction in trying things up. It feels feel lesser than the star dynamic of being stuffed in a ramshackle house fearing the non-motivated and widowed. Gunplay and action are fun. Indeed, those as the first two act provide, but gets such a sloppy in the climax. It does not exactly mar the movie, but it does its Carnahan mingling his own, albeit less effectively than when he's reluctant them to single movie. Overall, if you want a breezy, tense thriller that remain a notch above other streaming outing, the IP is on the table. If you want something more than a cop drama, you might need to abandon the subgenre by this point. If you want some affirmation of the German Affleck meta, things get twisty with some allusion to a shared level that I'm sure can, in no way, to interrupt it with the way I'm interrupting things. I don't think you will find a cleaner image that the film's parting shot. It would be easy to dismiss the rap as a January to streaming action. Today, if it did not come with his kind of power. Ajay Carnahan cops and crime pot Ballard Carabagel by artists created and by Matt Damon. And Ben Affleck feels like something designed to make noise, not something quality dropped on Netflix's. And the movie mostly delivered at what which implies, sometimes better than you would expect. Damon plays Lieutenant James Humor, while Lisa Miami dad practical chim into a stash house and find a cartel cache that turn on the night into a pressure cooker. The cache is the naughty money itself. It's what your money does to Rome. Jummer does not get it right away. He controls information. And teams start looking at each other like strangers. Kanahan understands how to make a confidence situation feel volatile. And the first well plays with a real procedure momentum. A lot of way it works with the casting. Damon is good in a role. That plays slightly engaged his recent turn of competent. Steady good guy part. Jummer reads as smart and capable, but also potentially compromised, which keeps the tensions alive even when you can feel the movie steering toward familiar turn. Affleck is as solid as the other half of the friendship dynamic, and the best scenes are the ones that let their history to the heavy lifting without over-explaining it. Simon Yeun and China Taylor are both welcome presents, and Ensembles texture helps the this thread, even when the script is being a little too blunt a Broadway has it. The downside is that the ride still has the Netflix's thriller chain, where the movie feels built to it. Considerably watchable mode and is generally surprising. Kanahan keep it moving and his set pieces have bite. But the plot mechanics can feel obvious and self-referential. I ended up liking the ride more than I expected to, and less than I wanted to. It is better than a lot of recent action thriller comfort plot, and has enough to atmosphere and mistrust to keep you locked in. Seinfeld Corner is dedicated to the delivering inside film criticism, thorough perspectives and a comprehensive ranking that celebrate the art of cinema in all its form. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are great as you would imagine. Their dynamics has always been one that electrifies the screen and pulls viewer in. This time around, it is no different and it adds one aspect of seniority. Damon is in charge, and despite his and Affleck's character being extremely close in the film, there is that tension between them surrounding who is leading the way. Maybe I am just thinking God was a long-term fan out there, but I fully enjoyed watching their banter, argument, laughter, and tension again. There are plenty of other names and faces you will recognize in Addict. Simon Yeun and Shannon Taylor are two of the detective within the TNT. Although at times it felt like Yeun was a bit miscast. He does play his part well in certain actor films, despite being in the group. Taylor had only a minimal supporting role and did not, however, you can't help but acknowledge her presence when on screen. As expected for the Golden Globe winner for the performances in one battle after another. Kyle Candace played his part as the EA agent well, also a minimal role, but one that is key gog in the film. Geeking out here again. I love Scott Adkins and seeing him play a role in a film where he is not just roundhouse kicking people like a low-budget Jean-Claude Van Damme is outraged. I have seen some people complaining already about the pacing of the ride, saying that it's too slow at times, or a slow burn that never feels leg in it. I don't think I could disagree more. I really enjoyed the pacing of the first film and did not find it show at all. From the jump, it's a trap you in for turned out to be a very well made cop thriller by a lot of questions and misdirection. I think the pacing benefited this film because it's not just a straight up non-stop action movie. This one makes you think, especially when it led off the gags. There are multiple parts of the script that match the pacing well. When the action hits, it hits hard, but when the smoke clears and the guns get rolled out, that's when the questions came to mind. It will generally make you second guess yourself when you think you have it figured out. I am a Joy Carnahan apologist and believe that he is an undervalued and underappreciated director. He knows what is the trend are, and he puts them on display here, with the shaky camera to match the gunplay, low light gothics and action that is full bore when necessary. He just understands those elements. The rap is not great by any means, but it's a hell of a lot of fun. If you need to sit down and watch an enjoyable film that will make you think but not overthink, the rap is your wheelhouse. It almost a throwback to early 2000 action film in a sense, and one that, as mentioned, will keep you guessing amongst all chores. Plus, you get to see two get back together again in Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, and your launch should get your flip on Netflix's watch it. It has been nearly 30 years since childhood friend Matt Damon and Ben Affleck collaborated to write the screenplay for Good Will Hunting. The film would go on to be a box office smash, grossing over $225 million even more. The two buddies from Cambridge would win Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. Soon after, both Damon and Affleck were capitalized into full leading man status. Yet despite their individual sources, their friendship remains strong to this. Damon and Affleck share the screen together again in Netflix's The Rap, a corresponding action thriller written and directed by Joy Carnahan. While they stayed firmly as a film's lead, Carnahan shows them with a compelling sporting cast that includes Damon Young, recent Golden Globe winner Tiana Taylor. The Arrive tells a gritty, satiric-level crime story set in Miami. It began with the violent murder of Captain Jackie Salas, the leader of the police department tactical team, with retired night squad still stealing from Jackie's death. The FBI began an internal affair investigation to see if the murder was pulled off by someone within the department. Meanwhile, Lieutenant John Domer, it promoted to lead team leader, but his job won't be easy with the division falling apart and morale at rock bottom. After receiving a Crime Stopper hit up, identifying a stash house belonging to the cartel, then round up his frustrated and disillusioned team of detectives. They consist of his best friend and long-term cop, Detective Sergeant J.D. Bryan, Detective Newman Babside, and Detective Lolo Slasher. The team arrives at the house which is sat at the end of quiet, with his stone set in pieces in place. Carnahan then begins tightening the screw. The team is met at door by a young woman named Daisy, who claimed the house belonged to her grandmother. But inside tells a much different story. While searching the rooms, they discover 15 bookers filled with cartel cash hidden in the wall of an attic. The team expected the rob to be from $150K to $300 million, but they quickly realizes they are sitting on an estimate $20 million. Procedures that they count the money at the site of Caesar. But that much money comes with an extra layer of danger, which they soon learn after a mysterious phone call gives them $30 million to leave or else. Carnahan drops his team in a pressure cooker as the detectives scramble to figure out the best course of action or other motivation in play. As the external threat mode is internal fractures that drive the suspense. The real tension kicks in once a team member begin losing the trust in each other, and as trust is eroded, loyalty shift and paranoia set in. Who's dirty? Who's clean? Carnahan masterfully keeps us guessing as he digs deep into the corruption and betrayal. The film mystery is a key reason it works so well. Carnahan plants seed of suspicion everywhere without ever tapping his hand, and whenever we think we have things figured out, he proved to be one step ahead of us. At the same time, he and TP Johan Mugers as Sparrows use a camera to give the world a greater and versatile texture. The rip is Joey Carnahan's best film since The Grey and is a killer start of the year for Netflix. Inspired by a true event, the story and storytelling grab you from the opening scene to the closing credit. The conscious barrage of F-bombs dumb things don't abide, but otherwise the script is razor sharp, giving the intensely focused cast some rich material to work with. Of course, it had to have actors working at such a strong comfort level as Damon and Affleck. They really do have a natural chemistry that comes through on screen, and that's one of many reasons this enthralling action thriller has with such forces. Darib had a pedigree that suggested it could be more than the visual genre cinematic slog. Ben Affleck and Matt Damon reunited on the big screen for the first time since 2023 year in a police action thriller directed and written by Joey Carnahan. Arguably the best films of their extensive career revolved around action thriller police drama. The Departed for Damon, The Tone for Affleck and Narc for Carnahan. So taking the genre together seemed like a winning strategy. The ride opened with the Miami police captain Jackie Wills getting gunned down by two smacks assailants who clearly know her warehouse. Then gets a textbook a house with a big ass stash. Nani to the seas Aka Arab. He really seemed to be respond. The house in the center of a cul-de-sac that seems tragedy too quiet. A young woman. They see Sasha respond and allowed him to search the house. Upon searching the house, they find for more than a few $100,000 hidden in property. This rap is in the several million. Naturally, That starts to make everyone on the team a little antsy, especially as Dan start acting suspicious and not following a protocol. Cinematographer Jonami Asperos does at the tremendous job of conveying the sense of sadness of the distress with the lighting. Characters weave in the out of shadow or are battered in the ambient green and red light. That also benefit from its stellar cast. It's no stock that Damon and Affleck play are featured so well. They bring an air to dance and shady like they have been seen in Alone It All. As they don't start to fray, Affleck and Damon bring an additional air of desperation and intensity. While they probably could have kept the rape entertaining on their own, the rest of the ensembles more than pulls their weight. Taylor provides a likable, charismatic ground, while Santlo offers a low-key confidence to Lolo. The play of each other too well, it feels like Carnahan could explore their dynamic in prequel or sequel. Ewan has been a rising star for years, but this performance seems like one that should open up more opportunity. Likewise shows solid versatility with her performances. The rap clock catches under 2 hours, but never feels long. Both the good guys and the bad guys work for the Miami-Dade Police Department in the trip, which unite the goodwill hunting bird. Dog trusts no one. He is movie that's conspicuous, better than most Netflix original and frankly right in line with a couple films the boys made for Warner Bros. Earlier this century, namely The Departed and The Tone, that I belong on the big screen. The fact it can be seen they were underscore warning that a streamer is not really interested in theatrical whatever it might claim in order to acquire Warner's. Colombians cartel are doing business in South Florida, but they are hardly in the worst of wars in North director Joey Carnahan's latest authority questioning thriller. Instead, the interview is most entirely internal, as the two of came to make off with more than $20 million in illicit cash. A bravely fictionalized retelling of the department began Caesar. The rape opened with the waterfront execution at a respected Captain Jackie Wells by a pair of masked guns. From there, it accelerated into a cat and mouse territory as humor. The officer she trusted most led him to a non-secret house at the end of a sleepy suburban when a young Colombian woman, Sasha, opened the door. Humor feels fairly confident that they have come to the right place. Sure enough, the newly renovated attic has a hidden room, where barrel upon barrel of $100 billion bills are neatly stashed. Per local police procedure, when Florida cops seize any quantity of cash, they are required to count the money on site. In this case, that makes humor had a steam sitting duck for anyone else with a design on their score. Carnahan's script introduces early the idea that Shaki was most likely killed by a corrupt cop. We turn the entire scenario. A team of 5 help of the end of a street where the cartel appear to control every house into a tense close circle mystery that had clearly cost a lot of money and yet almost how the film unfolded in a single location. The rundown home Daisy inherited from her Abiola. It is still the light out when Doomer crew enter the house. Carnahan and G.P. Jonami take the film like they are making here too, adopting the same slick, certainly almost look Michael Mann brought to his modern day crime classic. And also watching the ultra wide aspect ratio. The Florida sun is nowhere to be seen, as grey skies make exteriors feel oppressive and dangerous. Things are even more underlaid inside the house, and it's not long before night falls and everywhere is moving under a cloak of darkness, further obscured by a fine mist. The is palpable is a high-stake poker game. Asic Beard makes the faces of nearly half the cast that goes for German. Affleck and co-star Kyle Candler at least. When guns go off, they spark bright like wilting torches, while street light glow piercing the gloom. Visual that collectively reinforce the film's cinematic ambition. Much has already been said about how the rape defies Netflix's pre-scripted rule for distracted viewership, where the plot must be restated multiple times for divided the attention notices. But even those who give the rape their full attention may find it hard to explain all the twists and double crosses. Carnahan crammed into his gripping 2-hour thriller, which is presumably why Netflix is free to publish a Medium article entirely. The primarily suspect and Jumar and his brilliant partner, Detective Assistant J.D. Byron, as well as follow Officer Rowe, Slazer and website Diana Taylor. Let's stop for a minute and check in that cost. It's only January, and Netflix had already set a bar incredibly high when it comes to assembling. Between the sheer complexity of the plot, where to deal with the cops who roll in a closer, who was shooting up the house. Why does not Jumar try to arrest anyone from the cartel? And the intricate way Carnahan assembled the puzzle. The rap is easily worth a second viewing. Having done so myself, I can attest that it's even more satisfying on closer inspection. Editor Kevin Hall is constantly cutting between the faces of Jumar, team showing each of their reaction to be unplanned setback. And once you know what everyone's motive are, the performances prove even more satisfying as do a couple of corny shadow stares to keep us guessing. According to a conversation Carnahan sets in this garage, the cops in the lab make roughly $18,000 a year risking their life to recover money earned from selling drugs and other serious crime. At one point, Brad Pitt holds up a modest stack of bills and wonders blood how just that amount might change her life. Imagine that 20 million kojo. The ride was made for nearly 5 times that sum, and it's hard to make sense of Netflix's accounting. The money clearly went to good use unless you count a lousy epilogue set on Florida's fakest looking beach. Surely they could have found a few moreable bucks.